So after a lot of pushback and a lot of hesitation, I jumped into probate. You know, and Aaron's like, do it. You have to do it. It's a great lead source. You can help people. And, you know, they need you. There's not many people out there doing it. So one of the first listings, after I started calling a little bit, one of the first ones I took, it was a family from New Jersey. Their loved one passed away. They had a home full of property. You know, there's valuable items. There's furniture from the 70s in there. There's, you know, food in the cabinets and the fridge. You know, they had no idea what to do with it. So here I am. I was like, look, I can help you guys with this. You know, I had a conversation with them, found out they ultimately wanted to sell the property. Here's how I can help you. Here's how I can be of assistance to you in getting this accomplished. So I led them through the process, through ancillary services, getting the home cleared out, getting everything donated, shipped out, getting it cleaned, getting it up on the market, and ultimately netting them the proceeds. They only came down here one time to remove sentimental value items. Everything else we took care of. You know, and that's where I'll get into a little bit more, but that's where we come from with this lead source, is that we come from a place of service. You know, we're here to help these people. They're facing a lot of problems, and we're there to be their guide. We're there to help them, guide them through the process, and ensure that they are informed every step of the way. Like you said, in 2023, 21 closed probate. This year, to date, 23, Monday will be 24 closed. Pending, I just put 2 more under contract yesterday, so I'm at 4 pending and 6 active.
Let's go.
So my goal was to hit 30 this year. And if you think about it, this year I was still working as a police officer, you know, up until September. You know, the probate has been such a great lead source because, again, like I said, I feel like I'm serving people still. I feel like I'm actually helping these people and providing a service that they don't know where else to get. One thing, like Aaron said, is the main thing that these people need. They're faced with a problem in a house that, one, they don't know what to do with. You know, they are thinking they might want to keep it. They might want to sell it. You know, there might be family members living there. So they're faced with different problems that they need to kind of work through because these conversations are forthcoming. Whether we reached out to them early, these conversations are in the future, or we've reached out to them after they've already had these conversations and decided what plan of action they're going to take. Average 20,000 agents down here per county: Miami, Fort Lauderdale, or Broward and Palm Beach. The majority of these agents are calling expireds. How many of you guys call expireds? Wake up at 7 in the morning, 6:30, get your expired list, pull it off of Mojo, and ready to call. I didn't want to call someone at 7 in the morning. That, to me, that's disrespectful. Like, I wouldn't want to get a call on my phone at 7 in the morning.
And I don't mind doing it.
I did, just me personally. So now for me to call someone at 7 in the morning, ask them if they want to sell their house, you know, they're already pissed off. So again, you've heard it from him before. There's red versus blue oceans, right? In our business, a blue ocean is something like probate, something like divorce, foreclosure. You know, these are the people that need our assistance and need to sell property, or at least have a conversation about it, as opposed to being called by expireds for sale by owner, or even trying to circle prospect. Probate is the legal process through which a deceased person's assets are distributed. Now, there's 2 different types of administrations, and there's an order to determine homestead. And I'll explain all that. I wanted to introduce briefly, I brought one of the top probate attorneys in Fort Lauderdale. This is Odelia.
That's how you do it right there, team.
So she's helped hundreds and hundreds of clients go through probate process. She has a lot of information as far as the summary administration, the difference of a formal administration, how in order to determine homestead actually is a benefit not only to the family but to us as far as how we can help someone. So if you have any questions on this, I know she's going to be here. She's going to leave cards in the back on this, so you guys can always reach out. You do title work also, right? So yeah.
All the things.
So what she has found, and again, it's super helpful when you get into specific set of circumstances with this niche. when a family's going through probate and they are selling the home, to actually keep the title work in-house, to keep the orders in line and everything that you need. Because there's certain things, and again, knowing these things is the number one thing for when you're calling people and you're having conversations about them. No, we're not attorneys. Let the ones who spend all the money to go to law school handle that, right? But we need to at least be familiar with what stage they are in the process and how we can help them.
And I'm curious, why is that important and how has that helped you to serve people?
It's having an understanding and being able to communicate them clearly on where they are in the process and how we can help them. So for example, you call someone, they're like, yeah, we want to sell the property, but we have to wait. The probate process is going to take 6 months. I read on Google, it's going to be 6 to 8 months down the road. When I'm curious, do you know if this property is a homesteaded property? No, I'm not sure why. Well, let me explain the benefit to you and those involved based on the fact that if it is a homesteaded property, and don't worry, I'll definitely look that up for us. But if it is a homesteaded property, it can actually transfer outside of probate to linear heirs, meaning linear heirs, they go top to down, from up down and then to the sides if there's no children involved. It could transfer outside of the probate process if there's obviously no fighting involved. You don't want any disagreements or anybody going to litigation if everyone's on the same page.
Now, time out. If you were on the receiving end of that and you were a consumer, what would be going on in your mind? What would be your perception? He knows what he's talking about, yes? So in order to play any game, you have to know the language. Can you play football if you don't know what offsides is? No. Can you play football if you don't know what face mask is? No. So I have to understand the language, right? And that's what Heath is demonstrating right now.
What we would do then is say, hey, look, you know what? If that's the case, we would talk to your attorney, Ms. Goldberg, and find out if she's on board with that and can file the petition for the order. And once the petition is filed, we get the order back. It's rather quick once we get the order back. I mean, we just had one down in Broward County. It took a week. We're closing on that on Monday. The probate attorney filed the petition last Monday or Tuesday, and we got it back already. So the turnaround was like this right before closing, and we're ready to go. So as long as they meet that criteria, then it can actually pass outside of the probate process, correct?
Sort of, yeah.
But yes.
Right.
It's a faster process. It's still court orders, so we still go through the probate court, but it's not necessarily.
Yeah, and procedurally what's happening is that as a family member, if you had an opportunity to, let's say, because every month that goes by, you have carrying costs, yes? Maintenance, taxes, insurance, debt service, if there's any mortgage on the property. So if you had the capacity, you have two options as a homeowner. One is you wait till that's complete, then you hire an agent, 30, 45 days, then you get an offer and you close. That might be 8 months of carrying cost at $3,000 a month or $2,000 a month. Or because it's homesteaded, passing linears, no fighting or disagreement, we could have a contract. We put language in the additional terms and conditions that states that the sale is subject to
Broward County
Probate Court approval. So that way
County,
we can be done and complete in 90 days. Now, I'm aware that that's a lot of information at one time, but does that make sense to you, Mr. and Mrs. Seller? And they're like, uh-huh. Is that something you would want to take advantage of? Yes. And then you can proceed.
Yes, yes.
But without that knowledge, would he be able to do that? No. If you're calling these people saying, hey, I heard Grandpa Tom died. You want to sell your home? You're not actually adding value. Yes?
No, you're not. And then they're getting calls like that. Your main competition, as we were speaking before this, is investors calling, trying to take advantage of their situation. So, when we come from
hey, you just made frenemies of everybody who's an investor.
Again, though, it's I understand, but it's the way it's having that emotional intelligence. Because I don't mind investors coming in and helping these people out, but having the emotional intelligence to approach it in a sensitive manner, right? Because they're getting calls from people saying, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Personal Representative, I saw your family member pass away. You want to sell the property? And they're like, whoa, we're still grieving. Right. There's a whole process here. That it's not like someone maybe is.
Here's what's interesting, because even though you would bust down doors, right, as a SWAT team member, how uncomfortable were you with that initial
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, he would call me up. He's like, bro, I don't know what to say.
I don't want to call these people that had a family member just pass away. You know, I feel awful doing it. I feel awful.
I was like, Heath, you used to bust down doors like this.
Yeah.
And you're afraid to like say, hey, I was noticing, you know what I mean? Like that's
you know what it is? It's a mindset switch when you come from a place of service. Like when you realize that, hey, I'm actually here to help these people and they need my help because again, through doing so many, I've realized that there's so many, they're so grateful. Like when they come across an agent or someone like myself or Aaron who has the experience to get them to the finish line with all the services that we'll talk about, they're super grateful that we found them. You know, so that's where we look at it as making that phone call and coming from a place of service and really trying to help them out. How to list probate leads. There's 3 things that you really need to focus on: where to get it, what to say, and how can I help? Okay, where to get it. There's a few different sources, right? You can, again, what we've done for years and what Aaron did to list over 2,000 homes, he had a runner going to the courthouses for him, all 3 counties. The runner would go there, gather the leads, get it from the probate office, do a search on them through Forewarn, whatever it is, and then upload them into the CRM, right? And he would actually pay someone to go do that for him, save him time and money because he's not gonna run to the courthouse himself. And again, I don't recommend any agent doing that because it is a lengthy process. But if you have an assistant here locally, then you can definitely look into that. And there are SOPs for that we've created if you'd like to learn more on how to do that. There's also third-party sites out there, you know, which do provide good data. There's probatedata.com. There is a couple other ones of these named sites that you can actually go to, pay a certain amount of money, and they provide you information. They provide you the name of the deceased, the date of the deceased, the date it was filed, the attorney's information, the address, and the heirs, whether it's 1 heir, 2 or 3, you'll gather all that information. And the reason we do that is because, number 1, the first heir or the first beneficiary listed, you may not be able to get a hold of. They may not be interested. They may not be, you know, on the same time as us, you know, one out in California. So you call the second heir, right? You reach out to the second beneficiary and you give them the same, you know, phone call and same, what am I looking for? The same opening that you would the normal one, the personal representative, and you find out what their intentions are with the property. And many a time have I called a beneficiary down the line and they've been my actual point of contact throughout the whole process than the actual personal representative, you know? So again, it's really about gathering the data, making sure it's good data, and then reaching out intentionally and knowing what to say. And that's where I get into the second one. Aaron has a probate course, and have any of you taken the course? I know, no one else? Okay.
Then I'm curious, since taking the course, how many listings have you taken?
9.
And how much in potential commissions?
90,000.
That's right. He should have a picture of me in his house like this.
Yep.
That's what I'm talking about.
That's awesome. Yeah. So the probate course goes over, and he can attest to this too. It goes over what to say, how to gather the data, how to help these people, what services you need at your disposal, because those are the main things. Understanding where to get the leads from, understanding how to contact them, because again, it's having that conversation with an emotional side to it, right? Reaching out very respectfully. It's how you call it. It's not, hey, you know, Natalie, I saw that your family member passed away. You're looking to sell your home. No, it's like, hey, Natalie, this is Heath. The reason for my call today is that my team learned that very shortly, if not already, you'll be listed as a personal representative for your family's estate. And look, I know it's a little premature. I was just reaching out very respectfully in regards to the real property, just to see if you or the family have thought or have any intention about selling it at some point in the future. And again, it's about having a respectful conversation. It's about reaching out and coming from a place of service. And then you help them from there. No, we haven't thought about it, or yes, we've thought about it, or we just don't know. Yeah, I definitely appreciate that. And, you know, I've had the good fortune of reaching out and helping a lot of families kind of navigate these decisions. And I know these conversations are forthcoming. and here's what I found. And then you go from there and you add value, you add service, and you ask questions. The biggest thing, and what he's nailed on and through our last meetings and through our last Zoom conferences, is we have to ask questions. Like, you don't get anywhere if you don't ask questions. You have to figure out how you can help these people. What are they facing? You know?
Well, let's ask. What are potential issues that a family member is facing who has just taken possession of a property? And let's say you're not even in the same state. What are issues? Misinformed. Okay. Don't know what's going on. What else?
Contents.
Huh?
Contents.
Yeah, it's a huge issue. Contents. What else?
My mother-in-law's a hoarder.
My mother-in-law's a hoarder.
Yep.
Hey,
House full of content.
hey, I think that's a personal dig, bro. That's funny. Yeah, so hoarding, which is contents. What else?
Distance.
Huh? Distance. What
Distance.
else? Okay, this is cool because we're thinking physical. What about relational? What would be problems relational?
Other areas.
I can't stand my siblings.
Strange wife.
Estranged wife. Or we've had where it's a second marriage and the kids get nothing. And they're like, oh yeah, we get the condo in Kings Point. Nope, sorry, that's not the case actually. Right? So if you think about this, if you put yourself in the position of the consumer, that allows you to be able to be intentional and purposeful about asking
Questions.
Yes, but what do we want to do? We want to make statements. Don't you know who I am? I have a professional designation. I am a probate specialist. He called me one day. He was like, hey, bro, do I need to get a designation? I'm like, let me ask you a question. He's like, yeah. I'm like, do I have a designation? He's like, no. Like, I was 50 to
you know
60
what you
years.
need instead of a designation is you need services lined up.
Yeah.
You know, I have, through doing this, I've learned what people need, whether it's getting contents cleared out, getting the property cleaned, getting items donated, estate sales, you know, whatever it is that these people need that I gather through questioning, I have these services at my disposal, right? I have this set up where, you know, one family didn't have any money to get the property cleared out, but it had a bunch of stuff inside. I made a contact with a clear out company that is willing to clear everything out for them and just get paid at closing. Add them to the HUD and they'll be paid. I have a cleaning lady that will get paid at closing. I have a general contractor that will get paid at closing. You know, one of our houses recently in Hollywood had a leak in the roof. A pipe broke. You know, we went in, took a look at it. The lady lives up in Georgia. She had no idea what to do. I had my general contractor come in there, fix everything, repair it back to normal, and he's willing to get paid at closing. You know, so it's a way to help these people and show them that, hey, we're not just here to sell your home. Like, that's our end goal. We're going to do the transaction for you, but we're here to provide that guide for you along the way. Like, really take it on yourself. And here's what I've learned also through Aaron is, as you get busier, don't try to do all that yourself, right? As an agent, don't try to do all that stuff. Hire a coordinator. Hire someone to help you navigate that. Right?
I am so pleased that he said that out loud. That's like fantastic. Because what was the conversation like?
Oh, I was doing everything myself. I had people calling me about roofs falling in. I was showing up at donations, getting donations cleared out. I was meeting a clear out company.
What's fantastic is that's how it is with me. We were like having this conversation and he's like, yeah, I got to go pick this up. I'm like, what'd you just say to me? He's like, yeah, I got to go pick it. Wait, say that again. Say it louder.
How long did it take you to get
How many times?
To get the what?
the coordinator?
It after the first year, when I realized that I was, you know, had so much going on, and to be able to help people the right way and not, you know, push them off because I'm not available, I have someone coordinating everything to get everything in line for them. So if we have donations scheduled, they do it. If we have a clear out company, they'll contact my clear out company and take care of it for me, because it was a lot for me to manage on my own with you know, between everybody. Because again, I'm sure you guys can imagine, you guys know this now, if you're listing homes at high volume, if you have 6 active, 4 pending, you have a lot going on, you know, especially if most of the families aren't even down here locally, right? So they're relying on us to ensure that their property is taken care of while we're navigating the process. So again, this is just the ancillary services. It's really coming out and offering so much value to these families. Like, it would be crazy for them to say no, you know, because again, they're leaning on us for a lot. Like, their family member just passed away. They have a whole house full of stuff they don't know what to do with. And they were initially debating, should we sell? We don't know how much it's valued at. We've looked online, got some estimates from these third-party sites. So there's a lot going on. What do we do with all this furniture? How do we get it sent up to us?
Yeah.
So there's so much that we can do. It's really about gathering sorry, did we go back? It's really about gathering this and having these in your file. So you have a file on your computer saying, hey, you need a plumber? I got one.
Yeah. So I'm curious, like, what are you guys noticing? Is this really about getting a listing agreement signed? What's the main focus?
Service.
Solving problems. Yes? Whoever solves the most problems and adds the most value wins. So what most agents are doing is, what is their focus when they're calling? To get the listing. Yes.
Me.
What we are doing instead is, how can I help you? Now, in order for me to help you, I need to have a good understanding of the legal aspect of probate. Why? So I can be a guide, because I love attorneys. Do they usually explain things fully and completely? Are they usually busy? Do they charge you to talk to them sometimes? And do family members not want to talk to them because they don't want to get charged? Yes. She's like, haha. So what I'm aware of is, if I can answer those questions, I just made myself what? Valuable. Yes. And if I can solve all of these ancillary services, what does the byproduct end up being? A listing. You see? It's reverse.
It's, something I heard that stuck with me a long time ago, and probably heard it from Aaron. If we're in this business just to make money, we're going to have problems. But if we're in this business to solve problems, we're going to make money. So it's really about finding how you can help, how you can be of assistance and service to these people and solve their problem. And then the byproduct of that is you get paid at the end.
Often, not always, but often they're going to hire you because you're the only one. Everybody else is more me. And you're like, hey, whatever you decide to do, I'll support you 100%. My intention right now is to give you information to equip you, so that way you and your family can decide what you feel is best. And whatever you decide, I'm okay with. Notice, am I attached to that outcome?
No.
What is everybody else doing? Oh, please pick me. Yes? And what does that do to people? That is repelling. Yes? Anybody else? Okay, in a personal context, if somebody's like, oh, please hang out with me. How does that go? You see what she did? Immediately, no. Immediate no. Yes? So it's a whole different approach.
So my workflow, obviously, gather and contact leads. I call, I text, and I shoot off emails. And again, it's similar language. You're very respectful in the text message. A lot of people, they don't answer the phone from a number they don't recognize. So, how many people have gotten text messages saying, hey, we'll buy your house for cash? Like, I get those all the time. I get those all the time. So again, we check them though. We at least look at them. So I know when I send a very respectful text message, similar to what I opened with Natalie, where it has that same wording, someone's at least going to look at it and read it. They may respond, they may not. But again, the response rate on my text messages is fairly high. I typically set a few appointments a week just off text messaging. And then it's email. And again, I'll send introduction emails, not only to the clients if we get their email address, but I also I have a system set up in my CRM. And if you guys are running off of a decent CRM like Follow Up Boss, I have a system set up where I will shoot off an introduction email to the attorneys as well.
Mm-hmm. And is it just an email or is there a video?
There's a video included. I use BombBomb in my videos. And it's, hey, Heath here, and again, it's an introduction to your email. So they put a face with a name and a voice. So it gets sent off to them. And again, I understand attorneys are busy. I've had a handful of them reach back out. I have decent relationships with a few of them. And again, it's a way that we can help each other out. Business-wise, if you look at it from a business model, if I know someone that's going through a probate process or needs assistance, I had someone last week come to me. I referred him over to Odelia, hoping that she could help him out. And then just in the same fashion, if she's come across a family that could use some of our services and assistance with selling the real property, and again, all the ancillary services that we have, then I know that based on our relationship that we've established over time, she'll refer my name out as well. Set the appointment. The biggest thing about setting an appointment with this lead source is understanding that they're not here local. The majority of them are out of the area. They may live as far out as California or even in another country. So don't feel like you have to wait to see the property. That's one of our downfalls as agents. It's like, I can't talk to you until we meet at the property. You know, there's no need to meet at the property.
And how much of that was a mental barrier for you?
That again, too. It's like, how can I talk to them about price if I don't see this thing?
Yeah.
So, you know, it was breaking through that and saying, look, I can still have a meeting with you through Zoom. We can have a meeting through Zoom. We can talk about the market. We can talk about my ancillary services together. You get to see me. And then at the end, like a normal listing presentation, you feel super comfortable, confident in me. Are we ready to get started? You know, so it's the same thing that you do in person on your listing presentation, you do it through Zoom. And I've had more than a handful of clients willing to sign with me before we're ready to even list the property. You know, I think the longest one is we signed a listing agreement and we didn't get the property on the market for about 7 months.
Now, why is that important? I'm curious. Why is that important to get a listing agreement signed?
Because it's yours once they're ready.
Because as time progresses, is their sister, uncle, brother, cousin going to decide they want to buy it? Are investors going to be hounding them for offers?
Yeah.
Yes. So you want to get the agreement signed. Now, I'm aware, though, when we started to go down this path, did that seem like a logical thing for you to do, or was that like a brain scramble?
It was tough because you have to be able to show again that you add value. Like, why am I getting a listing agreement signed? I'm not coming down to the property until December. You know, why do I need to sign it now? Well, here's what we could do. In leading up to your trip down, Natalie, we can pre-market the property. One, we can get it out there, kind of like a movie trailer. We can create anticipation for it. You know, send it out to our network, see who's interested. And as you're preparing for your trip down, we can find out what ancillary services you need and have those all lined up for you as well to make the most of your time down here, because I know that's really valuable for you.
So it's creating urgency. I'm going there with listing paperwork. I'm going to pre-qualify it fully, and I'm going to present with the expectation you're going to sign a contract. Does that make sense? I would also start to throw doubt bombs, these little grenades, because they're like, yeah, we got investors. Like, yeah, I appreciate that. You know, what I'm aware of is usually investors' goals and objective is to buy at a very steep discount, usually 20 to 30% below fair market value, with the intention on making a profit themselves. My goal and objective, provided that the marketplace will allow it, is for you to actually pocket that money versus them. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So they're going to walk into that appointment, and what did I just do? Killed them. Yeah. Just smacked them around with a baseball bat, right? Which is what you want.
What happens a lot of times is what we will do is we'll look at the market analysis together, right? We'll kind of compare. They'll know somewhat of what the property has, features, amenities, condition, whether it's really in bad shape, it needs a complete rehab, or, you know, yeah, my mom did an updated kitchen, you know, a few years back, and, you know, it has new floors. They'll know to a certain extent, right? So we develop a tight, realistic range of price, and then we come to an agreement on something. And then I always say, I said, look, you know, when we do ultimately get into the property, if we need to make an adjustment, because again, the market is going to change by the time we're actually ready to hit the market also. So say we're still 2 months out, we'll do another search of recent activity, get a snapshot of what's taking place in the market, and then we can really shore up that price at that time. And if we're where we were, then we're fine. And if we need to make an adjustment, a little up or down, then at that time, we'll make that adjustment as well.
And then the way that you can assure that, so if somebody challenges you, like, don't you need to see it? It's like, well, you know, I have the great fortune. We're in and out of these homes all the time. I can get a very clear picture based on what you described to me verbally. I'm going to ask you a series of detailed questions. The purpose of that analysis is not to get a pinpoint to the penny in terms of price, but instead a tight, realistic range as to what would be reasonable. And then once you come down, as he was saying, like, we can always firm that up if it's plus or minus a little bit. Does that make sense to you? Yeah. Yes. And then you move on. So a lot of us, like, we just want to, like, stay there. Don't do that. Answer it, move on, right? So I'm curious, if we were to get together under normal conditions, would you be available in the evenings or afternoons? I'm closing. Does that make sense? But it's right. If you don't have that initial, if you haven't role played and practiced this, they're going to say, don't you need to see the property? And you're going to be like, well, yeah, maybe, I don't know. Yeah, possibly. And then they're going to be like, sorry, dude, I got to go, bye.
Yeah. So going into it, the last thing, like I said, is your listing presentation and the pre-marketing. Add the value there. What can we do? What can we line up? What services do you need? And how can I assist? And then really from there, it's just being that guide for them throughout the process and being able to help them every step of the way. And again, like every other lead out there or source out there, it's going to take follow-up also, right? Don't think.
Well, and how long did it take for you to like feel really comfortable with this source?
Months. It was a few
where
months.
you felt like, okay, I kind of know what I'm doing.
You know what it clicked? It clicks when you're confident because you're actually seeing results and you're helping people.
Yeah.
And you're having these conversations, and then after you go through it, then you're like, oh, now I know how to get a clear out company, or now I know how to fix a roof that's leaking, or now I know how to help someone who's having legal issues, or how to refer them to someone.
Yes, and I can say, just to manage expectations, whenever you start a new lead source, it's probably going to take 90 to 120 days to start to see outcomes. We just are very impatient, right? People do this for 30 days, be like, well, I haven't gotten a deal yet. That's not the way it works. And I know, because we were role playing regularly and you're asking lots of questions. When you became like kind of self-sufficient was after like 12 months, right? So doing is better than watching.
Mm-hmm.
If I had to choose between you watching YouTube videos or actually calling probates and getting like somebody wants to sign a contract, you're like, I don't know what to do. You call us, you call an attorney, and that's how I promise you, if you bumped into a probate who had to sell right now, would you figure it out immediately? Yes. So I'd much rather you do that. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And that's it. That's where I come from. And that's what my reason I wanted to speak to everyone today is that just being an agent, but being an agent that adds value in your business, right? Come from that place of service, really out there to help people. And again, he stressed this so many times, is be the guide. Right? We're the guide in their story. We're not here to be the hero, like, oh, I can do this, or I can do that for you, or I can do. It's like, hey, what do you need? What can I help with? How can I assist you?
Yeah.
Throughout
That's
the process.
Awesome. So with that vein, how can we assist you? What questions, comments, concerns, observations, hallucinations? What do you have about? Oh, yes, let's go. What do you got?
When a property's upside down, what's your procedure?
Hey, you know what immediately came into my head when you said that? Shark Tank. For those reasons, I'm out.
Run.
I'll do the research on that. And if it comes to it that there's not a financial benefit for the family to go through this, then usually it's better to consult their attorney and maybe just walk away from it.
Yeah.
If it's at that point, if there's some room in there, then they can, we can look at the numbers and see if it works. But a lot of them you'll come across may have a reverse mortgage on it that's taking up a lot of the equity.
Yeah.
So you'll just have to really get into that. And again, it's about asking questions. Right?
And if they're not on the mortgage to the property, they have no financial disadvantage to just giving it back to them.
It is. It's understanding that, hey, you know what? Here's some people that can help you clear out the personal items. The items of sentimental value. I can refer them out. And if that's all they need, then they can walk away and be happy with their belongings that they've netted.
That's right.
So.
Great question. Chris.
Awesome job.
Hey, thanks, Chris. Appreciate you. Before I transition into this rock slide.
Wait, did you have a question? Oh. Okay, he's still got a question. Hey, he's like, okay. Go ahead.
Yeah, so that's a great question. If you have a runner going to the courthouse, you're going to get that stuff on a weekly or bi-weekly basis updated. Like it's going to be fresh in the system, and they're going to gather that information for you, as opposed to some of these third-party websites that will provide the same data. They're usually on about a 3 to 4 week delay.
Which means that who's been banging on it? Investors. Yeah. Yes. So it's kind of like calling like an old expired. So the reason why I know that the kind of path of least resistance is to just pay for the data. At the same time, what I'm aware of is this is very much so a game of speed. So if I can get to you before you've been bombarded with all these other people, it's a competitive advantage. So for that reason, that's why we chose to do that. In 2020, I couldn't get access to the courthouse, so we had to use these. We still listed properties, but not nearly the volume that we were before.
And my second question is, with the relative who's broke, but they need the ancillary services, are you like fronting those expenses?
Yeah, it's either that or, like I said, I have a lot of services lined up that's willing to get paid on the HUD. So
Yeah.
I've made these contacts so I don't have to come up with my own capital because I've done that before. But so I don't have to, I'll have these services already lined up who they're okay with doing the work and then getting paid at closing.
The listing agreement is already signed.
Oh, absolutely.
100%.
Absolutely.
And then what I was
Yeah.
going to say is like, when you were asking, he was talking about like that pre-listing process, which helped him to go from like listing 1 to 2 a month to like 4 or 5 a month, because you create urgency, is there's key language there. So by you authorizing this agreement, what that allows me to do, it allows me to get all of the ancillary services lined up for you. It allows me to be able to lend you the money. And what I was going to say to you, promissory note and deed and trust. So a promissory note, you're going to sign it. I'm not going to charge you interest, but you're going to sign it. And if the property's free and clear, I'm going to put a deed and trust, which links that to the property. So like, I'm not like just giving like an unsecured loan. Does that make sense? But I do think that it adds a lot of what? Value.
Yeah.
Deed and trust is,
It's an instrument.
public notice that,
Yeah, it's an instrument that ties the promissory note to the property,
which if any type of company.
which a lot of these homes are free and clear. So what that does is make you a first lien holder. So you're going to get paid back one way or the other.
And
Right.
ancillary service people know that you have that security that they're going to get.
Or they do that themselves. Like my clear out company will do that themselves. They'll
Right.
take care of all that on their own. And
Like they'll take out a mechanic's lien and put themselves on the deed or whatever.
yeah.
Thank you.
Are you buying any properties yourself or selling a lot of properties to investors?
I'm not buying them myself. I haven't gotten to that level, but I am reaching out to people in our network. Like for example, Brian, we came across a property that the family member wanted to just kind of be done with and found a price that was fair. So I reached out to Brian and he had his team look at it. And now we're in contract together on the property.
Elite builders doing deals.
So yeah, so we are, depending on what it is, then I'll reach out and kind of give it to some people in our network.
And
see if
along
they want
those
that
lines, I
opportunity.
think you have to be, because I process a lot of these transactions. I never bought any of them. The reason is for me personally, there's a little bit of a conflict. So what I'm aware, look at the attorney, she's like,
yeah.
yes, there's a big conflict. So if you are going to do that, my suggestion is to be overly transparent. So hey, here's what I'm aware of. You have 2 options at your disposal. Whatever you decide to do is okay. I can personally make you a cash offer. It will be less than what you could get on the open market. I am not doing this. I would be doing this with the intention on making a profit. I will put it in the actual agreement. I'm a licensed real estate agent. I am buying this for investment purposes. If we decide to put it on the open market, it may take a little bit longer. With a very high degree of probability, you will get more money. So just so I am clear, which would you prefer? Mm-hmm. That is the position to take, in my opinion. Because if not, you're starting to really brush up against kind of an ethical thing because it's information arbitrage. I know something you don't, and I'm taking advantage of the fact that you don't know it. Does that make sense?
Especially if you're leading with an assistance and empathy
Right.
and trying to
And contribution.
help someone, and then at the end you're like, oh wait, but let me
take this. Yeah.
problematic.
It is problematic. So and to your point, I mean, I made a lot of money selling these. You know what I'm saying? Like you still do well. And what we would do with investors in order to, I'd rather get the money from them, right? So what they would do is if we plug them into an opportunity, I would tell them that they have to pay us a commission on top of what I'm getting from the seller, just for getting access to the opportunity. So you could get both sides of the transaction plus like a $5,000 finder's fee. So you could still do very well. And then I could take the money that I'm earning and go invest that instead of trying to get it for my clients.
Great job, by the way. 2 questions. Do you target just the Broward County or do you go?
I do primarily Broward and Palm Beach. I have ventured into Dade a little bit, but I
It's another country team.
Yeah, it is. It's different down there. So, but
And
actually
they keep the properties forever.
The majority of my listings were Palm Beach County. So I do Broward and Palm Beach both. A little bit more in Palm Beach.
And also,
Needs to lingo for the Miami.
Claro.
Yeah.
I'd be like, ¿hay una persona en su casa habla inglés? No, hasta luego.
What's that? No, price point, I've done everything from $60,000 condos to $800,000-900,000, houses.
Well, and that's
So
important.
it ranges. It ranges.
Yeah, and that's important. That's a philosophy thing. Some people get this like, well, I am a high-end agent. I'm like, you're an idiot because you're broke with your high-endness. And in my opinion, it's what I shared with him, and that's the philosophy. That's why he's listing these $50,000 condos in Sunrise Lakes. Do you know how many times I sold the $50,000 probate? Then the family calls me and they need to sell the house and the duplex, then the main home. You know what I'm saying? So I don't discriminate.
Yeah, it's about, I've had 2 transactions now that led to 3 each. So it's about really coming from a place of service, and you're helping these people out. So one, for example, I reached out to her, probate, Palm Beach County. The mother who passed away had a investment property where the tenant wasn't paying rent any longer. I helped align them with a attorney who worked on the eviction for them, got this person out, had a locksmith go over there, change the locks on the door, and then we ultimately listed and sold that property.
Awesome.
Her brother's property her brother was living in the main property, her mom's primary residence in Boynton, sold that one. Found her brother a condo in Boca, helped him buy that one. You know, so again, this is multiple times you'll be a service to these people, and they'll just keep using you, and it'll just because the onion will just keep opening to more deals.
Ultimately, what you do is once they trust you, they trust you.
You solve such a big problem too.
It's a huge problem.
You're right.
It's a gigantic problem. Yeah.
Do you have a different commission structure for those lower end $55,000 condos?
My commission structure, again, you know, going through it is definitely negotiable. So I'm not on one set price. And again, I don't come from a place where I'm just trying to squeeze everything out of these people, because sometimes this is all they have, you know? So again, what we look at is we look at what's fair and we look at what they're comfortable with. And then we have that conversation. So whether they're comfortable at the 2.5% or 3%, or, you know, whatever they're comfortable with, we're going to have that conversation and come to something that's mutually beneficial for everyone.
Yeah, and I've even had people say to me, they're like, oh, this really isn't that much. And I'm like, yeah, you know, I appreciate that. The way that we approach business is that I know that if I do a great job for you, in the future, you're going to refer me to your friends and family. So I treat you the same, whether it's a $50,000 condo or an $800,000 home. Does that make sense? And they're like, yeah, that's great. Yeah. But then you have to mean it. You know what I mean? Not just like put them on a shelf and never talk to them.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. One more question, then I'm going to just introduce Odelia. What's that?
Yeah.
Where do you find the runner? I know I didn't have a personal runner. I know Aaron found them.
Here's what I would suggest. You all have people in your life that could use extra cash. If you have older people that are in your life that are on Social Security or retiring, they could use some extra money. So I employed my mother-in-law. Okay. She went to the courthouse for like 5 years for us. Okay. And another woman by the name of Joan, who is in Palm Beach.
Palm Beach.
Yeah. We sent him to Dade, but again, that's like a circus, so we didn't really do that much. But it's easy. You just got to like ask.
With that being said, I know, you know, she graced us with her presence. I know she has to get going. I wanted to let Odelia just introduce herself. So,
Thank you.
Yay!
So I didn't know how hard it would be to be sitting here listening. You know, usually I'm the one talking. I don't have so much time, so I do want to say just a few things that I think would be useful for you guys, right? So I am an attorney in Fort Lauderdale. I do estate planning, probate, and real estate law, and that's it. I'm a contracts person, not a litigation person. So the difference is I'm transactional, not litigation. And I do a lot of probates, and I do a lot of title work, and I would like to tell you a few things, because if I could, I would scream it from the rooftop. So one of the things I want to explain is what is homestead. Okay, homestead is 3 things in Florida. First, it's a property tax deduction. We all know that to get homestead. It's also creditor protection. So when it's homesteaded, nobody can attach to this property, and Florida has the best homestead creditor protection of all the states. But the third thing homestead is, it's in the Florida Constitution as ownership rights. So you may not disinherit your spouse from your primary residence. And if someone doesn't have a will, the homestead property knows where to go. So if we have a decedent, and it doesn't matter who's on title, but it's homesteaded, meaning it was their house, whether the county knows it or not, because a homestead property could be homestead because this was where their driver's license said, or this is where the death certificate said. But especially if the county knows that it was homestead and appraisers, then that property knows where to go. And through the probate process, we wouldn't consider that as an asset for the personal representative to administer. It goes according to the order determining homestead. Now, when the judge signs that order determining homestead, that order acts as the conveyance instrument to the beneficiaries. So I take that order from the judge, or in Broward, the judge does it himself, and they record it with the county. And now the property goes from the estate of the decedent to the beneficiaries. If it's not a homesteaded property, we can't prove homestead. Number one, creditors can attach. But number two, it goes according to the personal representative's deed. So if there's one thing I want you to know is that a homestead property has nothing to do with the personal representative, okay? It goes according to the homestead order to the beneficiaries. It's still technically a probate proceeding because the judge has to sign it and it goes through the probate court, but sometimes we can make it go faster than a regular probate, which still only takes 2 months when an attorney knows what they're doing. So if we have an estate that needs to be probated, the client can sign a broker's agreement, show the property, and enter in the agreement. The only thing the client can't do is close until we get our orders signed by the judge. So we have plenty of lead time, right? You guys are showing the property, you guys are taking in offers, the client gets into contract, now we got a month of title work, maybe a mortgage, right? So by the time you guys are doing all that, I'm in the background doing my probate. I get my order when you guys are ready to sell, ideally. Now, we do want to put in the contract sale pending court order. We don't necessarily want to put the county because, we don't really know. But we do want to say sale pending court order to protect the buyer and the seller in case, we need further court orders, right? The other thing I want to tell you is make sure you have a relationship with a probate attorney. How many people here have a relationship with a title company? Yeah. Now call up your title company and say, y'all do probates, especially if you want to get into this, right? If this is your jam and you want to be attorneys that kind of target probate properties, then you need a probate attorney. Probably your title company, unless they also do probate, are not as equipped because this is my nightmare. I do the probate, I get my orders. My client is thrilled, I'm thrilled, they put it on the market, and then the realtor has a relationship with the title company in Miami or somewhere else that's not familiar with the probate process. They have an underwriter that's, God forbid, out of state or not the fund. They use some wackadoo title underwriter from Chicago that doesn't know Florida law, and they require me to get further court orders. So my court orders are geared toward the fund underwriter because that's what we all use here in Florida. And when I have these wackadoo title companies or underwriters from God knows where, and they require additional court orders, that slows down our process, right? I gotta go in front of the judge, I need an order to sell, or sometimes they don't even understand homestead. I find myself explaining, it's homestead property. The sellers are the heirs. We don't need the personal representative deed. They're like,
right.
no, but we need or it's a personal, it's a PR non-homestead property, and they still want the heirs to sign deeds. And I'm like, it's not how it goes, And we end up, but instead of just educating people, I do sometimes find myself getting additional unnecessary court orders, sometimes involving a hearing with the judge, because the judge is like, what do you need this for, lady? And I'm like, Your Honor, I don't know, just give it to me. And luckily for us in Broward, we have 3 judges, so we get to know them, they get to know us. In Miami and Palm Beach, it's a rotating bench of 17 to 19 judges. So Miami and Palm Beach is a little bit difficult, but yeah. In Broward, the 3 judges, especially if you do their estate planning, so, we get to know each other. So Broward tends to be a smoother ride for us. But the important thing for you guys to know is get a relationship with a probate attorney. Hopefully your probate attorney also does real estate so that they're familiar with the process. The other thing I want to tell you is keep it in-house. So whenever possible, whatever probate attorney does the orders should also do the title, even though they may not, Broward, Miami, the buyer picks the title company, all the other counties, it's the seller, right? So in all the other counties, the seller picks the title company, which makes it easy because we do the orders, we can sell the property, my orders are bueno, everyone's happy. But in Broward and Miami, now I got this buyer's title company I got to deal with, right? So as much as possible in the listing agreement or in the contract, we want to say buyer picks, seller picks title, right? just to kind of keep it moving, you know, they don't care to pay another $3,000, whatever, they're just trying to make the process smoother for everyone, okay? So any questions for me on a legal perspective, and then I'm gonna give it back to Heath and whatever.
I got a simple question. So the order of determining homestead, as long as we get that, technically we can go to work. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, but you know, the order determining homestead is still a probate process, right? We still have to open a probate, we have to file the petitions. We don't necessarily have to, you know, go through a formal administration for it. It's considered zero value for the probate process. So we can also, it goes along with a summary administration. You can't just do an order determining homestead without a summary.
But we can actually go to work way in advance of that. So like she said initially when she spoke, is that we can actually get the listing agreement signed, you know, start marketing the property, start showing the property, accepting offers, you know, get it under contract leading up to the time when we need her office to get that order determined homestead so we can actually close the property. You just need it prior to closing.
The other thing I would want to say is potentially, you know, you can go on the county appraiser's office and see if the decedent owns the property. It has the letters EST, right, after their name. You know, if someone died, it's part of their estate.
Yeah.
Because when somebody passes away and they don't have any beneficiaries listed on the property, it's owned by one person. When that person passes away, whether they have a will or not, that property has to go through probate. Even if there are two people on a deed, depending if we have magical language, joint tenants with rights of survivorship would determine if that property is going to go to the other person. So if you have 3 people on a deed and you're missing the magical language, joint tenants with rights of survivorship, and one of those people died, we have a probate. But potentially we have 3 pending probates because whoever passes away. So it's not just those probated properties that are recent that are a potential, you know, for you guys. It's all those probates that are just out there. You know, you reach out to the client, you say, hey, I've got an attorney, we can clear title for you, interested in selling. I know you've got some deaths in the family, who's living in the property.
Right.
And as you do this, every time you bump into a scenario, you'll learn.
Yeah.
Over time.
What is the time that probate will take?
For me, listen, a lot of what I do is not depending on me. I am dependent on people giving me information, and then the clerk, and then the judge, right? So I would say anywhere from 2.5 to 3 months if everyone does what they need to do. The longest my probates have taken is 6 months, you know, 8 months, and now I'm annoyed with them, you know, like, well, what, you know. But since COVID, the judges were home. Which meant that it sped up the process. I would submit a petition, within an hour, the order was signed. That annoyed me because I'm like, what are you doing all this time? You know, because before COVID, it would take me 9 months to get an order signed. And if I wanted to expedite it, I'd have to schedule an ex parte hearing. That's just me and the judge because I don't have anyone arguing against me. So from 9 months to 1 hour, and now it's about 2 to 3 weeks from the time I submit my orders to them returning it to me, regardless of the county.
It's really a function of how organized the family is and how quickly they can get her information.